Right, hey guys, how are we doing? Back another video from 6, and now I'm going to be checking out Jujutsu Kaisen stuff. I've watched the movie, I've watched season 2, I'm continuing with the manga, I am on the culling games now, but for now, I'm just going to check out stuff from 6 and other people that doesn't spoil anything after season 2, if you know what I mean. So, for example, this one, which is the strongest disaster curse is, and I personally going into this straight away say Tojo, the guy with the flame stuff, the small dude. I honestly think he is the strongest out of the lot. I know Mahito survived longer and had his weird like abilities, but still, I think if Mahito and Tojo had a fight, I think he would win. I mean, he goes up against Sukuna as well, which was like absolutely, obviously Sukuna absolutely owned him, but still, I think no one else out of the disaster curses could have done a better job. But that's my personal opinion. I don't know how to power scale these things. Let's see what Six has to say.
Within Jujutsu Kaisen, the strongest curses introduced in the series so far have been ones born of the fear of a natural disaster. At their height, these curses even form sentience and the ability to speak, such as Jogo from the fear of volcanoes.
Jogo, that's the one. Did I say Tojo? I said Tojo, didn't I? I'm terrible with days. Jogo.
Hanami from the fear of the
Hanami.
forest, Dagon from the fear of the ocean, and Mahito from the fear of humans themselves. These disaster curses push the main cast to their limits, with both Hanami and Mahito being essential pieces in Yuji's growth as a sorcerer, Jogo playing a big role in getting Gojo sealed away, and
Yeah.
Dagon battling 4 grade 1 level sorcerers and almost winning before Toji Zen'in's
Mate, when Toshi comes in, that was just incredible.
interference. But who would win if all these curses had a free for all? Today I
Ooh.
have Broken Ronin with me, and we're going to break down the battle and give multiple scenarios on how we think it would go.
Okay.
Be sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel, and obviously go check out Broken Ronin's channel and subscribe to him. But let's get started.
Let's go.
So to talk about the disaster curses alone first, like without their domains first,
Ooh.
because the domain section, that's probably going to be the majority of the video, honestly.
Right.
We haven't talked about it yet, but obviously it's probably going to be the majority of the video. I guess just talk about Dogon versus Hanami first, because those two are pretty much on the weaker end, and I think
I think
everyone
so
generally
too.
agrees with that. You got the one statement from Gege just saying,
He's super
I guess,
tough.
it is a tight matchup thing, but
Jogo.
Jogo would technically be stronger than Hanami. And then you have like Hanami's technically more durable, but then at the bottom of the page, Jogo's like, well, I'm faster. And then you got like a similar thing going on with Dagon, where Dagon's just really durable, but then when he's getting speed pieced up by an Albedo, he's like, well, this guy, he might be faster than Jogo. Sort of implies,
Probably. This is probably faster.
Jogo's definitely got the speed advantage.
So yeah, like the way Jogo like sneaks up on the three and just burns them. It's just like whoa.
Scaling Mahito in Jogo is a little bit hard, like at least in terms of speed, because they don't really fight anyone comparable. The only time they do is when they're all in Shibuya, versus Gojo. And Gojo, obviously, he could just squash any one of them. So
Yeah, definitely. It's just the situation he's in.
that gets a little bit weird, but obviously the more complicated stuff we'll just save for later. But like, let's just say the battle gets split up into a 2v2, and then this Dogon versus Hanami first. I mean, who do you think gets the initiative in the fight?
So right off the bat, I kind of lean towards Hanami. Now, obviously, as you established, Hanami and Jogo, or rather, Hanami and Dagon both scale below Jogo pretty definitively.
Yeah, I'd say so. I'd say so. But Hanami, we see more of Hanami's feats and that, don't we? We don't see much of the fish guy. Oh, I'm terrible with names. I'm sorry.
Not only because of, like, in Hanami's case, statements from Gege, but in Dagon's case, there are a lot of things from both the characters and himself that basically self-report him as a weaker character. However, the caveat that I would add to Hanami's statement regarding his comparison to Jogo, that is a bit different than Dagon's, is the fact that Jogo's win, or rather, like, Jogo's ability to beat Hanami, is almost completely predicated on a type advantage, at least
Right, fire and yeah.
if we go based off of what Gege's saying, right? He's saying that Jogo would beat Hanami based on their elemental bases abilities, right?
Like the starter Pokemon from Pokemon, aren't they? You got your fire, you got your water, and you got your leaf.
Right? Wood and fire don't really mix that well.
No.
And the reason I think that's kind of important is because of the fact that Dagon and Jogo's elemental abilities actually don't mix favorably in Jogo's favor. However, the implication given by Dagon, Nanami, and Naobito is that Jogo is just a completely different level of Cursed Spirit. The fact that Dagon uses Jogo as a benchmark for speed and ability kind of implies that he himself also thinks this, and his relatively small pool of experience kind of also pushes this idea as well. Now, if Jogo is only beating Hanami, or at least primarily is beating Hanami, because fire is a pretty hard counter to wood,
Yeah.
but Jogo was also able to beat Dagon in spite of the fish and water-based
Water being
abilities that
against
he has
fire.
being stronger, or at least more advantageous against fire and lava. It kind of does make sense that Hanami would be the stronger character going up against Dagon in a vacuum, considering that neither of their abilities necessarily cancel out the other. Like, wood
Yeah.
isn't going to just smother water by nature, and water is not going to do the same thing, vice versa, obviously. And in that sort of comparison, Hanami's durability is kind of hyped up to be a lot more potent than Dagon's.
And
Dagon
Dagon's.
obviously has
Yeah, I think Hanami's got it
the
over Dagon.
limitless HP statement. However, when Nanami is making that statement, he's not really referring to Dagon's durability. He initially makes the statement that he's taking no damage,
Yeah.
but then amends it to saying it's not quite that. It's more so that Dagon's health meter is ridiculously
HP,
large.
right.
A pretty good example you can use within the context of the series is Yuji and Todo versus Hanami, because Hanami just flat out states that Yuji and Todo individually are strong enough to actually do damage to him as a Cursed Spirit. However, because of Hanami's not only durability, but overwhelming health bar, he's able to basically endure
Just
5
take
black
it all.
flashes from Yuji
Which is a lot. Those black flashes do a lot.
on top of an innumerable amount of regular punches from Todo and Yuji through the use of Boogie Woogie and their general jumping. So having a lot of health, being basically having a lot of vitality rather, is not a Dagon unique trait. I mean, even Jogo shows some sort of resilience in this capacity.
Well, true,
Even though
against
his
Gojo,
durability
yeah.
is kind of, we'll just say, not respected relative to the rest of the Disaster Curse spirits. So when looking at that, and even looking at ability matchups, we do kind of have more shown techniques on Hanami's end than Dagon's. Dagon has the water barrier, potentially fish-based Shikigami that he can use outside of the context of his domain. But I do think that Hanami, at least when going off of what is implied or what is stated, does have a better case for winning than Dagon.
Yeah, and remember, we're talking about outside of domains here, so none of Dogon potentially has a more refined domain or anything like that. It's
Right.
just outside of domain.
Because all his feats really were within his domain as well, where he starts summoning all those mad, things.
Hanami seems to have a bigger advantage, and even if you want to talk about Hanami's speed, maybe Jogo's faster, like I mentioned. When they're fighting up against Gojo in the train station, Hanami doesn't seem to have too much of a problem keeping up with Jogo.
No.
Whenever they're doing the double domain amplification punches on Gojo or anything like that, it's not like Hanami's majorly lagging behind and Jogo's picking up the slack. He's still hanging in there. So even if Jogo may be faster than Hanami, it might not be by such a significant margin like Dagon implies the difference between him and Jogo is, to the point where Jogo potentially could just kick Dagon around the subway station the same way that Naobito did.
Same the guy, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you
The
go
frames per
Hanami's
second guy.
probably more durable. If not, they have comparable durability. He's faster. He's stronger through the comparisons Brooker Running made between him versus Jogo and Jogo versus Dagon. So Hanami is more than likely taking that outside of domain. Now,
He also has domain amplification, which is something that Dagon doesn't have, and that's just another
Right.
thing that can be used within the context of battle, like getting past the water barrier, for example. Something that may require a lot of strength normally can basically be gotten past relatively easily, and it's not like Hanami can't switch back and forth between using his technique and actually using domain amplification.
Right.
It's funny you made the Jogo Hanami comparison because I was gonna do the same thing. The only reason Hanami kind of bows out of the fight before Jogo is seemingly because of like lesser battle experience.
Yeah.
Like he makes the mistake of using his technique and falling for Gojo's bait.
Yeah,
whereas
just
Jojo's
trying to
smart
go
enough
at
to
him, and it's just
understand
no chance.
that
Yeah.
it's just a trap.
Yeah. There's something interesting too that Jogo says there. He's like, whenever him and Gojo encountered earlier in the train station, he would have died if he didn't have his domain amplification on, even though Gojo's not using his limitless curse technique, right? So
Yeah.
that was like the first sort of hint we got of this. Then we get confirmation of it in Gojo versus Sukuna, where Sukuna's like, yeah, I can
Whoa.
basically
No spoilers,
limit
please.
the output of Gojo's technique or the damage
No.
I'm gonna take from Gojo's techniques with domain amplification. So, like, even if Hanami doesn't use domain amplification to get through Dogon's water barrier or something like that, it can lower the amount of damage he's gonna take from Dogon's techniques. So
Yeah.
God damn. Right. I'm on just so you guys know where I'm at. I'm on chapter. Let me just check. I am on chapter 150. What chapter is this? I'm on chapter 155. And I'm reading it like all the time, so soon I'll be catching up. But like, oh man, I don't want to know. I don't want to know. I've seen that Gojo fights Sukuna at some point, but I don't know the result of that. Uh, ah,
Yeah, and that's gonna mean a lot, especially if they're of like relatively physical composition, in terms of like durability and how much punishment they can take.
yeah. So then let's say that fight's over there, whatever. And then
They're doing that.
Jogo and Mahito get into it.
Jogo's got it. I'm sorry. I just really do feel like Jogo's got this.
This one is just blatantly complicated. There's
Really?
there's multiple ways you can interpret this fight. I'm gonna say like my like one way that I think it could be interpreted, and like how Mahito potentially could pull out a W, or maybe it leans in favor of Jogo. Whenever they're talking about how or why Mahito got put up on this pedestal as the leader or whatever, they say that Jogo did it because Jogo thought Mahito could keep growing stronger. So it's
Yeah.
like a potential thing. Mahito's
Yeah, they saw what he could do.
gonna keep Mahito's eventually gonna be the strongest, essentially is what I get from that, right? The way like it comes in to where I think Mahito maybe got to that point is whenever Mahito begins to fully understand his soul after hitting his black flash on Toto, and he enters his instant true body spirit form, whatever you want to call it or whatever. Then you can say, okay, maybe at that point Mahito's at that level that Jogo wanted him to be at.
Yeah, I would say at this point, maybe, but we're not talking now. We're talking like when they're all alive.
And why he propped him up to be the leader. But the problem with that is that's not really stated. It's more so just like an implication based thing. Like, okay, maybe
Yeah.
that's the point Jogo was talking about.
But, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, maybe not. Maybe he saw him becoming even further than that, and then he didn't get to progress any further, and then Geto just, like, absorbs him.
Or maybe Gege killed him off before Mahito could ever get to that point that Jogo was talking about. And I mean, either way you take it, like if that is the point, that means Jogo's more than likely stronger than Mahito in his final form. And then
Potentially.
to touch Mahito or hit his soul rather, Jogo can just simply use domain amplification and land that hit on him, since that gets rid of curse techniques or whatever. And we do know like domain attacks can damage Mahito's soul from the Mekumaru fight.
Yeah,
So I mean, it's one way or the other. Either Mahito is stronger than Jogo when he transforms,
God, that Mechamaru fight was insane.
and Jogo's weaker than base Mahito, or
Yeah, that was class when he hits him with the thing and then explodes, and he's like, whoa, he actually states, oh, that attacked my soul as well.
whatever. You can give the way you were interpreting those two.
Yeah, so I mean, kind of to just build off of what you said, your interpretation on Jogo versus Mahito is kind of like, did Mahito reach the point of evolution that Jogo was talking about or not, right? Obviously, you can say that Mahito says himself he plans on continuously growing, right? This is not the end for Mahito. However, Jogo probably isn't able to fully comprehend the limits of Mahito's potential, if we're being completely honest. He probably is able to see where Mahito can go past him, but just because Mahito can get stronger doesn't mean it's absolutely necessary to grow stronger than Jogo. The reason I would say that Mahito's sort of awakening or final form should kind of be classified as the thing that Jogo was saying, that next level of disaster, is because Kenjaku kind of says it himself in reference to absorbing cursed spirits for the sake of like adding to his arsenal, in which he says Mahito grew in his fight against Yuji, but he wanted Jogo to do the same thing. He wanted that same type of growth from Jogo,
Right,
but
yeah.
it never happened, right? Now, generally speaking, this could just be like a basic level of Mahito is evolving and Jogo isn't. However, combined with the fact that Mahito is calling this the true form of his soul, like his unbridled form, wish me a happy birthday, as if it's like he's being
Just being
birthed as something
born
altogether.
again,
I mean,
yeah.
Yuji's even calling him a completely different cursed spirit. And sort of the scaling Mahito has relative to Yuji, whereas before they were significantly more relative. Yuji can harm him with his basic attacks. I mean, he's just basically like absolutely tanking everything that comes his way. He just presents himself as like, it's not a minor increase in ability, right? And I think base Mahito to base Jogo, in terms of speed, potentially in terms of like curse energy output and like physical ability, Jogo probably is stronger. I will say
I'd say he's stronger, definitely.
though, in terms of durability, Mahito in his true form, if he's able to make it there going up against Jogo at least, I mean, he's able to just completely just handle Yuji, right? The same Yuji that's able to hurt Mahito with his base punches.
True.
Right? Yuji then fights a character like Choso who hardens his blood.
God, yeah.
He's not able to hurt Choso. And then Yuji fights true form Mahito and says that Mahito's toughness is a level even beyond that, right? So
But then he's
Hanami,
able
who
to
is
land
already
punches, yeah.
significantly more durable than Jogo, is less durable than Choso when amping himself with blood, and Choso amping himself with blood is even less durable than
Than
Mahito in his
Mahito,
true
yeah.
form. So there's like multiple layers of removal between Mahito's resilience and Jogo's when you look at it just like that. And there's also the statement that if Mahito didn't go into that form weakened by like a last-ditch effort Black Flash, Yuji would have just been torn to shreds.
Damn.
There's kind of a lot of things that I think imply Mahito's evolution into that final form is very much kind of what Jogo's talking about. It does definitely depend on your interpretation because it isn't a matter-of-fact thing. You can say that this simply isn't the form. And in terms of like going back and forth with straight objective knowledge of the series, it's really hard to do so.
Yeah. I mean that's pretty much. I don't have anything else to say about that fight. It's just really hard to determine. And let's say whoever wins that fight, Jogo or Mahito, they're probably gonna clean up Hanami.
Yeah, definitely. I think, no, Hanami's not got a chance against either of these guys.
In my opinion.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
So now if we bring domains up, man,
God, here we go.
It just gets so complicated.
Here we go. I don't even know how you'd start with this, but all right.
So let's establish we're talking about something that has never been done before, potentially,
Yeah.
with a 4-way domain clash.
How does that even work? How does that
The only
work?
time we even got something close to it, it failed because of the different conditions and the cockroach curse jumping in. The 3-way domain clash failed. So we're gonna give multiple ways that this domain clash can go. It's gonna be sort of like Brooke and Ronan compared it earlier to Duck Duck Goose, which whoever uses their domain first.
First, right?
So we're gonna give a bunch of different we're gonna speak probabilities rather than definitives. Like, oh yeah, this person's definitively gonna win this clash. When talking about their domains anyway, it doesn't seem like one person is going to completely negate the other person's domain
Okay.
throughout any of them. Like it doesn't seem like if Jogo opens his domain on Hanami or on Dagon, even though he's stronger, it doesn't look like he's gonna erase their domain the way Gojo did his or something like that. You get the gist of it. Like this domain clash is going to be a domain clash.
Yeah. I
one's
mean,
not
if
gonna
you
go
guys regardless of who you think is better, like the simple comparison I always go to is Megami does not have a complete domain expansion, right? He's not even able to imbue it with a sure hit. However, he's able to clash with Dagon, a character who can keep his domain expansion open for a long time
Yeah, because don't they chill inside of his domain as well?
because it seems to be a place where the disaster curses spill or chill rather.
Yeah,
Jesus,
there you go.
for
Yeah.
like just an
A
ambiguous
lot of
amount
time. Yeah.
So, and it's also a complete domain expansion that is a sure hit. So, unless there was a way to prove that the difference between Mahito's refinement and like Dagon or Hanami's refinement was an entire completed domain difference, which there isn't, you can't really argue that one character is just doing to any of the disaster curses what Gojo did to Jogo.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't think we've actually seen a domain like expansion clash since then that replicated that. Like that is
We
the
haven't.
obvious outlier in terms of domains going against one another.
Yeah. And two, I also want to mention, people tend to forget this. You know, it's been a long time since the fights came out or whatever. But Mahito, whenever he's activating his domain in Shibuya and it's like super fast or whatever, he's amped through Black Flash at that time.
Right.
So that's not something he can normally do, like bringing out 0.2 second domains that activate, you know, on a dime, their sure hits or whatever. That's not
Right.
something Mahito is always going to be able to do. So don't take that into consideration in this fight unless, you know, he happens to hit a lucky Black Flash, which we can't say that. That would just be far too biased.
Yeah.
So, in terms of who's gonna open their domain first, we got to look at it like, okay, how do these characters act in a fight? Whenever
Yeah.
they
How?
open their
What is their approach?
Mahito sort of uses it the way it's supposed to be used, like the last resort type of thing, right? Hanami also sort of uses it that way. He's like, well, I can fire this blasted Toto, but with his curse technique, he's probably just gonna switch us around, and then I'll have to take the brunt of that.
Yeah, you're gonna
right?
take the hit. Yeah.
That implies to me that he would rather have shot the blast than open his domain. And then
100%.
Jogo, he gets mad enough and he'll just pop it, right? So
Yeah, his temperament.
throughout all
Man,
those
yeah,
people,
definitely.
Dagon's probably the one who's going to activate his domain first.
First.
Dagon is the least experienced fighter. I mean,
Yeah.
up until Shibuya when we saw him, he was just a curse
Nothing. Yeah.
But the thing about it is, Dagon, he always keeps his domain open. So it makes sense that that would be like an
Feel more comfortable doing it because it's open all the time anyway, so it really makes no difference.
opening move for him because he's just so used to it. Right? Like it's really nothing
No, that makes
for
sense.
Dagon
Yeah,
to
yeah.
just expand his domain. Now, when you talk about skill with domains, Broken Runner, he brought up something to me before we started recording that I never really considered. And it's that Dagon can pick who to hit with his sure hits inside the domain,
Oh, okay.
which is kind of crazy.
That is mental.
Like Gojo can't do that because they, you know, if Gojo opens his domain in Shibuya, everyone gets mind fucked or whatever. Mahito couldn't do it, but that was like a little bit of a like Mahito can exclude people, but he can't pick when they're inside his domain. He can't pick whose soul he's holding, essentially. So Dagon has that like skill advantage, but in clashing domains, I guess it really doesn't matter because the sure hits are just going to be clashing and he's not going to be able to use it anyway. One advantage that Dagon and Mahito have over Jogo and Hanami, or maybe Hanami does have something like this, but we don't know because he never opened his domain fully. Is
Yeah.
the fact that they have extra things to fight alongside them when the domains actually do clash. In the fight between Uro, Ryu, and Yuta, they're even like they want to make sure Rika can't get in the domain clash with them in order to avoid.
Oh,
giving
this is
Yuta
later
an
on as
advantage,
well.
or I think the base
Stop.
translation says the initiative. So that is something that they have over Hanami and Jogo seemingly. Now, when one person opens a domain expansion, and it was sorcerers doing this, so maybe it's not 1-to-1 with curses, but when one person opens a domain, it's more than likely that the other curses are gonna follow suit. That,
Yeah, definitely.
If Dagon opens his domain
Yeah, Darga's gonna open it. Everyone's just gonna be like, "Oh crap, is that what we're doing? Okay, let's go."
first, Jogo's probably gonna do it as well. And if it is the case where they're all like close up side by side, because it's a free for all, no one's on teams. They're all close up side by side. We've never really seen anyone retreat before the domain can completely engulf.
Yeah, right, yeah, yeah.
So the other two curses are probably also gonna activate a domain. It's just like at that point, what do you even say?
Yeah,
Like,
what's happening?
how do you are Jogo and Hanami experienced enough like Sukuna to use domain amplification inside of that so that they can land hits on Mahito? Because if not, no one can hit Mahito at this point, right?
Because you can literally choose
cut
where
in
the
here,
critical
cut
hits
sort
go.
of, like
Yeah.
scrambled, but
It's tough because if you think that all four of them clash, right? It's more likely than not, based on what we know about like how fragile domains can be. Obviously, three alone wasn't enough to have the domains break, right? Kuroshi's interference is a decent part of that. It's stated by the narrator. It's a fact. However, if you add a whole nother domain expansion, right? A whole nother character's internal and external barriers being somewhat inconsistent with the rest of the verse, or with the rest of the group, rather, it's not too crazy to think that that fourth domain would simply act as the sort of like unbalancing act in the same way that Kurushi did. You know what I mean? Where
this
it's
is
like
later
three
on.
domains is technically feasible in the best case scenario, but adding that fourth, especially when all characters involved,
So there's a
probably
three-way-
are not
right,
as
okay,
skilled
down an
as
expansion
some of the
upgrade at some
characters
point.
we've seen, like for example Gojo and Sukuna. Unlike
No.
Gojo and Sukuna, who can just switch their barrier sort of options or like the ranges or even the types that they're using on the fly, the Disaster Curse spirits don't have feats like that. They do not have skill feats on that level. A majority of them can't even target characters specifically, so it's very unlikely that they'd be able to just match them up perfectly. In a scenario when all four of them open it at once, the barriers probably immediately break, and every character is going to have a burned out curse technique as well as significantly less cursed energy than what they went into it with. Now, I'm not gonna lie, it completely depends on the kind of like the frame of mind that the curse spirits have. But I'll say it like this: if I was Jogo, if I was Hanami, if I was Dagon, I'm immediately trying to finish Mahito. Because this is the
Yeah.
he no technique, right? He's like you can kill him right now if you were able to just physical damage will work.
If you can
can't
get
heal
him.
without a transfiguration. I could very, very much see the curse is like almost instinctively pouncing on the character. Because Jogo, yeah, he doesn't have his curse technique, no more long range attacks for him. That's a problem, 100%, but not as much as like Mahito. Mahito literally loses one of his biggest advantages in the fight, which is his basic invulnerability in a sort of roundabout way. And if that happens, I could see Mahito getting eliminated,
Straight
not because
away?
he's the
Wow.
weakest character,
But
but because his curse
the
technique
situation
is
they're
so
in.
annoying to deal with.
Yeah.
That like
So
in this
get rid of it.
very specific scenario, mind you, right? Like I think we both understand that this is like kind of getting a little convoluted in terms of like how it goes. But in
Yeah,
this
for sure.
scenario, Mahito probably gets jumped and just bodied, right? And
Yeah.
at that point, after curse technique kind of bring themselves back, it's probably Jogo's win.
Yeah.
And like if everybody, everybody's lost a similar amount of cursed energy, none of them can open their domain expansions again. Jogo has the better scaling. Jogo has like, especially for Hanami, he's just burning right through
Just
most of Hanami's
gone.
constructs, and
Yeah.
Dagon looks up to Jogo almost as if he's his father in terms of scaling or whatever, right? So it's like Jogo definitely could win in that very specific scenario. And the thing that you were alluding to in the beginning of the video about like domain discussions being the biggest part of this is because it's also very possible that one character opens their domain, another character opens their domain, they clash, and the other two kind of just chilling in there like, well, why would I open mine?
Okay, yeah, like wait for the perfect opportunity to use it instead of just
Right?
Yeah.
Y'all are already clashing. I'm not strong enough to overwhelm you. Unless one of you guys start winning or something and the sure hits start coming, there's no need to open mine.
Yeah.
And now you have two Disaster Curse spirits with the potential to use a domain later in the fight and two that don't. And it gets really, really complicated. It gets really convoluted.
What if one opens a domain, another opens a domain, another opens a domain, and then the last one runs in and breaks them the same way it did in
and then
the
just
other
opens
fight.
theirs, just opens, and then just like if that's Mahito for example, he just opens his, and then immediately, and then it's idle transfiguration, everybody's done.
Yeah.
So I hope we're illustrating how many different ways this can go, because I think
It's not
the sort of
clear-cut.
question that this video will sort of elicit is, which is the strongest disaster curse spirit, right?
Right.
And it's like, okay, Dagon and Hanami on the weaker half, right? Jogo and Mahito on the stronger
half, yeah.
Depending on your interpretation, you can really lean either way. I think Mahito probably has a bit better of an argument just because his technique is a little bit more hard to get around. That's a personal thing, right? It's really interpretation based. But the thing I want to try to get across here is that depending on like sort of these characters and like circumstances that we reasonably can't account for, at least in totality, it doesn't, the strongest character in the group doesn't have to win. I mean, we just illustrated an example of like Mahito falling out of the rankings first, like getting bodied first, even though me and Six agree
He's on the stronger half.
he's not the fourth strongest, he's not the third strongest, he's either second or the first.
Yeah.
So there's just so many conditions, there's so many possibilities and so many unknowns that make it really hard to say, you know what, in a free for all, I'm putting all my money on this character, because it's just a lot of things come into play here.
And then to like them jumping Mahito is plausible because they all know how Mahito can grow. Like that's the reason he's the leader of the group in the first place, because he can grow just so much.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't even see like a situation in which, you know, they all four open domains, let's say they do. I don't see why they all wouldn't just jump him.
Yeah, I mean, that in Dagon's case specifically, he doesn't have domain amplification, right? So he is a character that really needs to jump Mahito. Like for like Hanami and Hanami and Jogo rather, they can technically hurt Mahito outside of their domain, right? Domain amplification maybe isn't the best tool for that, simply because they have to turn off their own curse techniques, and Hanami seems to have trouble with sticking to that plan. But at least they have some way of doing it. The only way Dagon is hurting Mahito is if he immediately he just jumps at the chance. And really a lot of that is true for Jogo and Hanami as well. So it's like, it really depends. It's like you have to account for, oh, what are these curse spirits thinking? How do they feel about each other matchup wise? Are they going to like jump the stronger one? Like are Hanami and Dagon gonna temporarily just attack Jogo and Mahito because they're stronger? Or you know what I mean? There's so many different possibilities. It's really hard to say.
Yeah, it's really it's just, I mean, it's impossible. I'm gonna just be real. It's impossible
very,
for
very
us
difficult
to say this is going to be the way it definitively goes. The only thing that I can say I'm certain about is Dagon will open his domain first.
Yeah.
That's really the only one
Yeah,
that
definitely.
I'm
I
sure.
agree.
I'm
Because
sure
he uses it
that
all the
will
time.
happen. But other than that,
Yeah, totally. He's, like I said, they're constantly chilling in it. You know, it's always there. Whenever we see them chilling on the beach and that, and it was quite cool to get it revealed that that's where they're at. Use it all the time. So definitely feels comfortable, just boom, straight away.
it's really up to you. Like, okay, do you think they're gonna jump Mahito? Do you think they'll all open their domains and Mahito will sit back and break all three of their barriers, and then he'll open his domain and destroy all of them without their curse techniques? Like, do you think two of them will open it and the other two will sit back and fight inside the barriers until they weaken, and then, you know, like,
Yeah. It's for like, okay, a 1v1, right? There's only so many ways it can go. Like a 2v1, even that has limited ways, right? But when you're getting in like a 1v1v1, okay, that's already crazy. And then you're adding like another character who, like in Hanami's case, we don't know what his domain looks like, right? We don't know if he could summon extra help. Like there are so many unknowns about how these characters would like specifically try to go up against each other. It does make it makes it very, very tough to say who wins, even if you know they're scaling, right? Like, yeah, Jogo over Hanami and Dagon, right? Cool,
Definitely.
that's fine. But like, does certain context make it so that, oh, Mahito takes Jogo out or something in the fight, and then even though Jogo's not the weakest, he gets eliminated earliest because of his low durability, or some, like, you can make an argument for any of these characters being eliminated first because of how many sort of like unforeseeable circumstances,
like whatever circumstances are under
in this fight.
yeah. So, I mean, On that end, I'll leave it up to everybody. You can comment how you think it's gonna go.
I think Jogo
Maybe
would win,
there's a
but
possibility of combinations that we didn't even think of. I mean, it can get crazy.
you really
But
can.
yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say about it. You can, you know, end off, wrap up, whatever you want to.
Yeah. The disaster curse spirits, a very unpredictable group of cursed spirits. I think that's safe to say. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. You're probably gonna see some collabs with me and Six over on
Sweet,
my channel
cool.
as well if you want to check those out. But yeah, thank you for having me, man.
Yo,
Cool. Right, so there is a danger of spoilers. Not that wasn't huge, but like, go on. So I think I just need to catch up real quick, but yeah, I just think Jogo personally, I just think Jogo's got that. But yeah, Mahito's very unpredictable and very, very, very difficult to deal with. But that's fun. So yeah, you guys let me know what you think I should check out. I'm thinking of checking out. What did I write down? I wrote it down. I was gonna check out What If You Two is at Shibuya next. So that would be interesting to see. He just pops up at the end, doesn't he? So what if he was there throughout the whole thing? Like, that would be an interesting one. And then I've got uh, Go. No, what's his name? So it was Jogo versus Toji. Oh man, I love Toji. I mean, he's just absolute beast. But yeah. Anyway, thank you to my patrons. If you want to have your name at the end of every video I upload, links in the description to the Patreon page. $1 a month is all I ask. Support channels, greatly appreciated. Thank you guys for that. Thank you all for watching. What do you guys think of that? What do you guys think of this? Click like, subscribe if you haven't already. Leave comments down below. Let me know what I should watch and discuss in future videos. I'll see you guys next time.